Here's why you need to master monotony. Monotonous work is really the key to success. There's going to be those days when you feel super passionate, you feel like it's super interesting, you just can't wait to get to work. But to be honest, from personal experience, those are the exceptions. Those are the times when you get very lucky in a sense, that your motivation actually pulls through for whatever you're doing. 95% of the time, it's the monotonous work that isn't necessarily something you hate, but it's not something you love, and you would just rather not do it. But if you can master the monotony of doing the same thing like day in and day out, because you know that this specific thing you're working on is something that compounds over time. Obviously, there's a lot of caveats to this, but if you're working on something and you know that you need to work on it each day to get better and better, for example, playing the piano, playing an instrument, you have to master practicing every single day in order to get better. That's just a fact of how you get better. And same thing with many things in life. You have to practice certain skills again and again and again until you eventually become better. And it's those monotonous days where you practice it again and then the next day and then the next day that most people can't handle. Most people will only work on stuff when it's new and exciting. And after a couple months of trying something new and exciting, their excitement and motivation begins to wane. It begins to decrease. And what happens is they lose motivation and they don't have discipline, and then they just stop working on it altogether. And all the progress that they made is completely wiped out. So if you can master monotony when you're not seeing progress, when you don't like it, when you're tired, but you're still showing up and doing it because you have that discipline, you will be successful, because that's the very difficult thing that most people cannot do in this world. They cannot stick to it. They cannot stick to it when it's boring. They can only do it when it's exciting, when it's new, when it's fresh. And most of the things that make you successful are not going to be exciting, they're not going to always be new, and they're not always going to be fresh. It's going to be something kind of boring, but it's your commitment to your goal, knowing that you have to do this every single day. For example, if you want to get bigger and stronger in the gym, you're going to get excited in the beginning. You're like, oh, yes, I want to work out, and you're going to be motivated to go to the gym. You're going to go to the gym, and then because the progress takes a long time, you don't see progress right away. Because the progress takes a long time and it doesn't come right away, you're not going to see that initial progress, and all of a sudden, all your motivation is going to go out the door. And now you're going to be like, well, maybe I don't need to go to the gym today. And that's where the discipline needs to come in, and that's where you also need to master the monotonous, because going to the gym is not always going to be exciting. There's going to be those days when you feel pumped up and ready to go. There's going to be those days when you just don't feel like at all. You don't feel like getting out of bed, or you feel like you could stay in bed or go to the gym. It doesn't matter. Those are the times you have to choose what you know is best for you, because that monotony of the same thing over and over again, that repetition, is exactly what separates you from the rest of the people. Being able to stick to that repetition for something that's positive and beneficial for you will compound and lead to enormous long-term gains over time.